Hi and welcome to #Podblog. I'm Tom and this is Gareth, and today we're talking about the top 5 tips on your run up to the Cardiff Half Marathon. So I think I'm going to kick this off today. My first tip is now is not the right time to change your trainers. We see it so often at this point where people have saved trainers for the special occasion, haven't worn them, haven't broken them in. The risk of blisters if you chuck on a new shoe now and you start running 10, 13 miles straight away, you're going to tear your feet to shreds. Consistency key. I think we keep telling our patients that the risk of injury just increases dramatically the minute you change something which you've been consistent with over the last few weeks or months with your training block. Obviously it's 2 weeks out, we're seeing a lot of people getting nervous. As Tom is running it as well, and you need to stay consistent. So your socks, your trainers, make sure if you are going to go to a normal tie-up lace or a tri-lace, all these type of things, you need to make the decision now, or you should have done the decision by now. Absolutely, really. You shouldn't be changing it right now. You should rely on what has worked up to this point. You've already put, hundreds of miles in probably in your training programs. So yeah, basically now is not the time to change. Tip number 2, run your own race. So I've done a half marathon before, and it was one of those experiences where it was just unbelievable. People everywhere. There's people running really fast, there's people running slower than you, and I think it's so easy to get caught up in somebody else's race. Somebody overtakes you and you think, oh no, I'm going to catch that person up, or I'm going to take over that person, and the risk of burnout is high if you start running somebody else's race. I think again, putting those miles in. Yeah, I think especially with running, I'm a bit of a data freak. I know what I need to run. I'm wearing my watch. I know my splits I've been doing in training. That's why you've been training for this day. You like those products? You're a bit of all the gear guy. Yeah, a little bit. I do like. Obviously, you've got heart rate monitors these days. Everything. If you know your zone training, you need to stay within the zones you're running and training in. I think pacing is key for this. In the end of the day. Yeah, absolutely. It's all not a pace. Jog. It's not a park run. It is something. You're going to have crowds there, you're going to have a lot of people there. You're not going to be able to run fast at the start because of the volume of people running. I know, you're going to have your family there. All of those things are going to push you to go probably faster and harder than you've done in training. So just be mindful of it. And again, run your own race. My secret tip will be to the night before, a few days before, to do obviously a lot of people listen to music. Start off with a nice relaxing song. Don't go in with your heavy metals or your rap when you're starting, just to calm yourself down and not follow it. If you look at the pros, they all run negative splits now. Obviously last weekend in Berlin there was records broken. If you look at the split times, mind blown how someone can have such good negative splits from the start to the end. Tip number 3, pre-run foot pamper. So what I mean by that is, we're a week or 2 weeks away now from the half, but now's the time really to start giving your foot that little bit of TLC really, looking at making sure those nails are nice and trim, getting rid of the excess hard skin that's built up through these miles and miles of training that you've done. You don't want to leave this pre-race pamper too close to the run. You don't want to go in with baby fresh skin. You do want a little bit of tough skin, but I think Hannah, our specialist general podiatrist who deals with that, is looking extremely busy now over the next week or so with people booking in to get their feet looked at, with a bit of pampering. You've got some products out there as well, urea-based cream that'll help break that down as well, which you can do a few nights before as well. It'll just all help with that experience. Yeah. Tip number 4, the 2-week taper. So come Sunday, we are 2 weeks away from Cardiff Half Marathon. So Sunday really should be what we call the long effort. That should be your longest run, basically from the time you've started until you actually do the marathon, the half marathon itself. Can range anywhere between 10 and 13, 14 miles. But from that point forward, we start to taper off. Certainly, with a week to go, we should be looking at significantly reducing our runs down. So I would suggest possibly two runs the week before, with your last run being on the Thursday. Those runs should be relatively small and easy at about 30 minutes, and then I think 2 full days of rest and recovery after that Thursday run to prep ready for the half marathon.
That's obviously the traditional way of things. I think some people will react differently, but in the end of the day, most of them have done a few runs. They know how their body moves. You don't have to always be running. You can still get some nice activation work or blood flow. You can do some cycling, non-loading. You're not hitting that road in the tarmac. So tissue load will reduce. There's nothing wrong with that, but don't go mad. Money's in the bank in the end of the day. How many weeks have you been training now for this, Tom?
Absolutely.
It's not a few weeks,
at
isn't it? 3. So obviously there's been a nice progression and a build-up, and this is our peak. On the weekend, Tom was talking about it today, he should be practicing his race nutrition. So getting the carbs in the night before, making sure you're not overfeeding yourself, but you're getting everything in. More is better, really.
Decent carb-filled meals on the run-up. So a good few days before, sort of getting that carb-rich food in.
And then with me in my sport, I find liquid carbs a lot easier to consume the morning of the race. Get your electrolytes in. You get your free tabs. Free actually before the Cardiff Half. If you go around the tents, you can pick up those type of things. That's the thing that everyone talks about, that wall, and in my opinion the wall is a nutrition problem, or just not prepping yourself right for the race.
I think you mentioned something quite interesting about sleep, getting that sleep.
Yeah, obviously this is an area we've been talking about lately. Clinically this year we've seen a lot of stress fractures, maybe because of the warmer weather and firmer surfaces, but Feinstone et al., actually, I'm going to plug a bit of research on this at the moment, said the stress fractures reduced by 60% in the Israeli army just by monitoring sleep. And instead of people having traditional 5, 6, 7 hours, they were actually promoting their staff to get an increased amount of sleep, and they found a lot of tissue and bone stress reduced dramatically there. So that was an interesting one that we looked at the other day.
Tip number 5, trust your training. You've done the work, you've put in the miles. Now again, during that run, trust the miles that you've put in. Don't go and change your stride or your strike position. Again, you just increase the risk of injury for no reason. Run how you've run, on the miles and miles and miles of training you've put into this half marathon. Just run the same way. Again, change is something that will potentially increase your injury risk. And relax. Again, trust the miles that you've put in. Yeah,
just relax. Recovery's key now. In the end of the day, you're 2 weeks out. You need to make sure your body is ready for that large amount of stress on the day. In the end of the day, you're all going to be excited. Do you mean?
Yeah.
Kids are going to have big posters out.
Yeah, I think that sort of nicely finishes it off, really. Enjoy yourself. It's a great experience. I've done it. I've done Cardiff Half. It was a brilliant half marathon. The people really make it. But you've done the training. Now's the time to kick back and enjoy it. It's a great experience. So yeah, have fun basically, and I'll see you there. Well, you'll be overtaking me probably.
Enjoy it. Yeah. Hopefully the weather's good as well.